To be clear, and before I get stomped on in the comments by people from either side of the aisle, I'm not political. In fact, I'm not even American. I'm Canadian. I have no stake in who's right, whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats. This is not a political video. This is a business video. And in business, it pays to be realistic. So let's add a pinch of realism to the narrative. Throughout the entirety of his campaign and term, Trump kept up with his shtick about bringing manufacturing jobs back to America, bring them back from China. Now, it sounded good, and maybe economically on a surface level, it reached people. It made sense. I'm no economist, but from a macro perspective, how does that make sense? Right? And I'll sum it up with one simple question. Are you willing to work for $500, sweating your balls off in a factory, making products? The answer is probably not. Now, the cost of, even if you were, the cost of living in America is prohibitively expensive for somebody who only makes $500. Now, flip that over to Asia or China specifically. There are many people who are willing to work happily for that amount because the cost of living is just so much lower. On principle alone, that entire theory about bringing manufacturing jobs back to America is just wrong. The only way that you could do it is by increasing the cost of goods sold, increasing the cost that it would take to manufacture those products. And then once again, you'd be stuck in a situation where you're buying an iPhone for multiples of what it currently costs in order to give the companies that make them the profit that they need to scale and to grow and to continue having their doors open for business. This is the reason that companies went overseas with manufacturing in the first place, to allow them to manufacture their products for a cheaper price, which made them more profitable, which allowed them to scale, and again, from my perspective, probably helped the American economy. So, the people love the narrative, but that's basically where it ends. It's just a narrative. It's not based in reality. Businesses naturally moved their business offshore, overseas, to countries like India, Vietnam, Bangladesh, Indonesia, and in this example specifically, China. Why? Because people are willing to work. In fact, a lot of people are happily willing to wake up early to work for that type of a wage in those countries because the cost of living is so substantially lower than it would be in America, for example. Now, the second half of this equation, or rather in any manufacturing equation, is what about the quality? Sure, you have people willing to manufacture the product for a cheaper cost. What about the quality? This means that in reality, the debate for US-based companies isn't should we take our manufacturing overseas more often than not. The question is, where should we take our manufacturing overseas? Where are we going to get the best bang for buck? Where is there infrastructure? Where are engineers plentiful? Where can our problems be solved in a way that matches time, quality, and price and finds that perfect equilibrium? In my opinion, that answer is China. Right? People are moving away. People are saying bringing jobs back to America. But at the end of the day, that equilibrium is found in China more often than not. And that number increases if you factor in only high quality or complex products. The supply of people working for salaries that are substantially lower than they would be in other countries in the West is part one. Part two is that the quality is there. And when I talk about cost savings, I'm not just talking about your random average person working in a factory. I'm talking about engineers. I'm talking about supply chain managers. I'm talking about purchasing experts, quality control experts. Across the board, the price is lower because the cost of living and the standard of living is less expensive. I'll tell you one thing though, as the CEO of a contract manufacturing business based in China, a lot of our customers are American and a majority of our customers are from the West. The great creative ideas, for the most part, are still coming out of the West. China is catching up, but as it stands, a lot of the creative ideas for products are coming out of the West. And as a contract manufacturer, Morpho can create the perfect symbiotic relationship between China and the West to bring that creativity to create the coolest, most high-tech, cutting-edge technology that the world has. Think of any big company that you know. Look around you, any product you can see. If it's a tech product, the odds are that it was made in China. They do that so that they can create cutting-edge technology, create world-class, unique, incredible products, and sell them to you at a price that makes sense for you, and also a price that makes sense for them to allow them to scale. If the iPhone was made in the US, you'd be shelling out a multiple, probably a big multiple of what you currently need to pay for an iPhone. In other words, all the big US companies that are generating trillions of dollars of revenue for the US economy, if they weren't manufacturing overseas, they might not exist at all. Peace.